Okay, well, welcome everybody to tonight's special meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Amy, if you want to go ahead and do roll call, please.
Mr. Chavez,
Here.
Mrs. Evanson,
Here.
Mrs. Heights,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Lima.
Here.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Chavez,
Approved.
approved. Mrs. Evanson,
Yes.
Mrs. Heights,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, so the first item up on our business items is the resource recommendation for 12th grade ELA. So do I have a motion for this resource?
Motion to approve the 12th grade resource.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion to approve the 12th grade resource?
I just wanted to say thanks for the extra time to have the opportunity to get through this a little bit more. As I got further into this and looking at how, and I appreciate this also being the teacher's reference instead of the student reference, because it gave me a little bit more of an idea of how this is going to be presented, assessed, things of that nature. And so I really appreciate that extra time because it gave me a little bit more comfort in this than what I had, on Tuesday. So with having that extra time to get a little bit further through this, I feel comfortable in approving this at this point. So.
Well, good. That's what we wanted to obviously achieve. So I know we all get busy and we all have a lot of other things going on. So we'll do our best. And I do think that at our last meeting, if we could get the resources in our hands, I know curriculum team was, you guys were trying to get it in as quickly as possible as well. So we appreciate that. But maybe even if we see a few of the resources ahead of time as well, and we can kind of review them, that might help as well, just to help save time. So I'm glad you had a little bit more time to look at it as well. Is there any other discussion on the 12th grade resource?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we can go ahead and take the vote on the 12th grade resource.
Mr. Chavez,
Approved.
Mrs. Evanson,
Yes.
Mrs. Heights,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So, all right, next up on our agenda is the 4th grade social studies. So is there a motion for the 4th grade social studies?
I would actually like to motion to table this particular one, just to honor the work of the CRGC and give ourselves a little more time to see the alternate resource.
Okay.
They've been unable to get that in yet. I spoke with Jen earlier and they're still waiting to try to get a hold of that other resource.
Okay, so with tabling an item, we don't have discussion. So we're voting on tabling the item. So we can go ahead and take the vote on tabling the item.
Did we
Can
have a
we-
second on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we need a second for tabling. You're correct. Is there a second for tabling the 4th grade resource?
Can we ask a question or do we have to wait till we?
Yes, go ahead and ask a question.
So my question would be, if we table this, what are we teaching the kids this summer? Is there no resource for the kids this summer, or what's?
I think, Jen,
Do you want to?
yeah, why don't you explain what the time frame would look like?
There's currently no board adopted resource for fourth grade social studies in circulation. You've heard about previous publications that are well out of date. So teachers teach the standards with the resources that they have and that they can curate. There's not a board adopted resource for fourth grade social studies yet.
Barb, you have your hand up?
I did. So what you're saying is currently there is no adopted fourth grade social studies. Is that correct?
You'll find some titles on the list that were adopted, but they're all well out of print and circulation. So there's nothing common. Those were all 70s, 90s, like titles that are out of circulation, not in print anymore, which is why this was up for a recommendation. So there are probably 2 schools who still have access to an older text on the list, but we've tried to get those copies from used bookstores, had little success. So correct, there's no board adopted resource for fourth grade social studies currently that's in circulation. That's true for a lot of social studies. That's true for all of the grades in social studies in elementary.
Will, you had your hand up?
No, I guess you guys had just answered it. So what would be the timeline if you guys could try to either get the other curriculum or figure something else out? I mean, what is our absolute deadline? As I know, like today would have been ideal,
Yeah.
but what is the absolute deadline for us to get anything done?
Well, we're in a tricky situation here because CRGC takes recommendations from resource selection teams. The resource selection team appraised a second resource and a third. Only one is high quality enough to bring it forward to CRGC, but we wouldn't bring it forward as a recommendation of the resource selection team because that wouldn't be accurate. They didn't make a recommendation. They made a recommendation for Colorado Story. They have appraised all of the available resources, scored in multiple iterations against rubrics. There's another resource that's of high quality, but it's not an official recommendation. So we're sort of in uncharted territory where if CRGC were to review that material, we wouldn't want to bring it to the board as though the board had a choice between 2 materials. We'd want resolution on the current recommendation that's in front of us before considering another path. I suppose that could all happen in one board meeting. But again, we wouldn't be bringing it as a recommendation from the selection team. We would be bringing it possibly as a recommendation from CRGC if that was the consensus. And so we would bring all of the data from the resource recommendation team to CRGC. We wouldn't ask CRGC to take the role of the recommendation team, and we can't reconvene the recommendation team to make a different recommendation. Their process is complete. And so that was complete against the standards and the rubric. The purview and discretion that the board is exercising is the board's to exercise. So there's not an issue or an argument there. It's just that we wouldn't ask the recommendation team to reconvene and consider the board's concerns. And we wouldn't ask CRGC.
We do want them to review the process.
Right.
We want them to review the process and
Mhm.
then bring it forward
Right.
to the board.
So CRGC is the next appropriate step in terms of going forward, I think. But it's not as though we want the new process to be the board to consider 2 resources and select between them. That wouldn't be appropriate. We have our resource recommendation teams make those recommendations. They go to CRGC, from CRGC to the board. And so in this case, CRGC is positioned to review another resource that's high quality, given the complete work that was done by the recommendation team. So your timeline your question, Will, was about a timeline. It sort of depends on what happens here tonight. If tabled, Jen and I would need to think about how best to communicate, go forward, and engage with CRGC, and we'd have to call a meeting.
Which we can do.
We can do what, next week?
Okay, thank you. I'll second the motion to table it.
Ready for the vote?
Well, Barb has her hand up. Go ahead, Barb.
I guess I'm so confused. Like, do we need to vote on the first resource? Is that what you're telling me? Because I guess I'm just kind of confused. I mean, I understand that for the next resource to go to CRGC, it has to go through that process before it comes before the board, but do we have to vote on the first resource before you will move a second resource to CRGC?
So we know that the board is unable to move forward on the current course, but they're voting no or table. And so if there's not a vote, if there's not motion forward in the process, if we're not moving forward with a consensus vote, then we know we need to do something different. In this case, we'll go back to CRGC.
And we'll bring you the second one.
Okay, yeah, I guess we just want to make sure we're giving you that it's clear. I guess there's enough hesitation with the one that was recommended to the board. And I don't know whether it would be more clear to you for the board to either take a vote on it or that it's more clear if it's tabled. And so I guess we just want to make sure that we're clear with you all. I think what we're getting at, is that right, Barb? Like, I don't know whether it's tabled because there's a lot of questions from the board on the resource, or if it needs to just or table it. So I guess we would just want to make sure we're clear. I think that's what we're trying to get at for everybody.
I believe
Barb.
that tabling is appropriate, and we will bring that second resource that was reviewed, and we'll bring it to CRGC. They can review, we'll look at the process, and then we would like to then present it, and then we can decide what the next best vote would be.
Okay, right, because what I'm hearing is we're not going to be looking at this resource that was presented to us and then comparing it to this other resource. You guys are now going to be looking at this other resource and now presenting that one as the one to the board, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're going to have to put another, because this is the board's right to do, right? So while we've never been in this space or place before, here's an opportunity to write what that process would look like.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're stalled here. If stalled here, then we reconvene CRGC.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll be back.
All right.
We have to get all of the resources. Our best laid plan is to get with CRGC, but we've got to make sure we're getting all the resources. I know that you've said you've gotten one, right, Jackie?
Oh, we have
from
one.
the publisher.
They're kits. We have one of the kits here and the others are being shipped. I think they'll be here very soon, today or tomorrow or the next day. I don't know I think we have 6 kits coming. Mm-hmm.
So each unit is a kit, right?
I should have brought it physically. There's one box with kits and 2 extra kits that go on top of it.
Barb, another question?
Yes. So when those kits come in, I know it's my understanding that it's going to be going not necessarily before the committee, but to CRGC. So when is the soonest that we could get those resources to start reviewing them?
Jen's looking at dates, but that would be immediately following CRGC if there was consensus from CRGC to go forward. So CRGC would review the process of the recommendation team, the scoring on the rubrics, the materials themselves, and then CRGC would take a consensus vote. If that were successful, it'd go forward as a recommendation, and the very next day or even that night, you could pick up materials. We could get those to you.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, is there any reason why we couldn't get it sooner than that? And then if it's not presented to us as a reference, then we just give it back. That way it would just give us a little bit more opportunity to get through it, since we know that's literally the only one that we're going to be looking at.
Let us get back to you on dates. My hesitancy with that is just coming back to process. We don't want to be in a place where we're asking the board to consider a recommendation before CRGC has considered a recommendation. And we don't want CRGC influenced in that, right? It's their independent review of those processes. So it's important to us that these teams operate somewhat independently for the integrity of the recommendation that comes. But we also want to honor that we're up against tight timelines. So I think if we could set CRGC, if we could make that meeting happen sooner than later, then that gives you more time.
Jose Luis?
Yep, I have a question. Will you be able to let us know why that second resource wasn't chosen as the first resource also? Because I would like to know the reasons for that.
Yes, you'll see it real transparently in the scoring of CRGC. What we don't want to do though, what we wouldn't do is come to the board and say, which of these two resources, decide which one you want to vote on or vote on both. That would circumvent important processes. And so we only, if successful from CRGC, we'd only be bringing forward the new resource, and we'd ask you to evaluate it on its own, the merits of it itself, and not as compared to the resource that we just put in front of you. And that's the same thing that we'll tell CRGC. We're not asking you to compare the two resources. It is helpful to see the scoring side by side to understand the strength of the resource in front of them, but their job is not to compare the two. It's to assess the strength of the one in front of them
Based on the standards.
based on the standards
Based on the standards.
and whether or not it ought to go.
Okay, thank
The
you.
people who do all the comparing are the members of the resource recommendation team. Will.
Yeah, Will, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Okay, I'm sorry. I know we're not supposed to have discussion, but my question is, if we table this, aren't we indeed saying, no, we don't want the first one? So it's actually, we're kind of voting the first one down. So I don't understand. If we table it, then we're tabling the whole thing. But why, but we're, I guess in sense saying, we don't want the first one, get us a different one. So I just don't understand the difference between tabling it and just plain out voting, I guess. I don't know.
It's a little bit of kind of one and the same. I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, because, tabling, you can table an item till the next meeting, or you can table something indefinitely. That's why I just wanted to make sure with the curriculum team, with Jackie's and Jen team, that if they needed an actual vote from the board, that we could give them that. In my mind, if they bring us another resource, I mean, we could vote this one, but if they present us with a different resource, again, they're going through the process. So it's a little bit one and the same. So, the motion was to table. The motion could have been to vote, and then it could have been a yes or no vote. So, I know we're kind of going a little bit out of sorts because I know there were a lot of questions, and that's fine. I want to make sure the board has all their questions answered. So it's fine. I don't want to inhibit anybody from having their questions answered. So
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, the process is stalled to the extent that curriculum needs to do something else to move it forward. Stalled in the way of the table. A no vote is, you're right, functions similarly or the same, but clearly we're not moving forward. And so it's on us to figure out the next step.
Yep, and we will do that. The first thing is to get the resource for CRGC and the board to have that even opportunity. And they're en route.
Yeah, the publisher drove down a set that's here, and then the rest we're just waiting on in shipping.
okay, sounds good. Board, any other questions?
Not for me, thank you.
Okay, so the vote on the table is to table it. So, Amy, we can go ahead and take the vote.
Mr. Chavez,
No,
Mrs. Evanson,
Yes.
Mrs. Heights,
Yes.
Mr. Jones. I'm sorry.
Will,
I
you're
didn't hear you.
muted.
Sorry. No.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Okay, so the item will be tabled. All right, and then, so next up, okay. So we kind of had open board discussion during that time. Is there anything else for open board discussion?
No, sorry about that. I just had questions. I apologize.
It's fine. It just gets a little, I know these things get a little tricky. So again, I want to make sure the board feels comfortable kind of going through these processes. So Robert's rules just gets kind of particular. And so I try to follow them as best I can, but I'm willing to deviate from them so that I can make sure people feel like they can get their questions answered. So, all right. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.